something stronger in there.
It's illegal. I feel like right now.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. This is the Wabash City School Board of Trustees meeting. It is June 16th, 2025. Roll call. Everyone is present. Having a quorum, we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wabash City Schools provides a relevant and rigorous education founded on relationships to ensure each student is college and career ready for success in the global community. Welcome. We don't have any recognitions tonight or revisions. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment on an agenda item other than the DLI program? Because that'll come up in a little bit. Okay. Consent agenda. We have minutes from June 2nd, 2025. Claims, we have a donation of $360 from Wabash County Sheriff's Office to the Hungry Kids Fund. And we have some financials tonight. Accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
First, we'd like to thank the Sheriff's Office for their donation to the Hungry Kids Fund. Then we will move on to our revenue and expense report. Okay. We'll start with revenue and expenses. You can see that revenue was a bit higher than what we had projected. This was largely due in part to receiving a supplemental local income tax payment, as well as receiving the enrichment grant that we received from the Community Foundation by anonymous donor that helps offset the cost of the certified specials teachers at OJ. I believe that grant may be for one more year, but those are some costs that we are going to end up having to absorb. We also received a very large Medicaid reimbursement for this month after the state fixed some errors with their submissions. We have a new company that we are using, that the state is using for Medicaid reimbursement, and there's been some growing pains with them. Our expenses were also a little bit higher than projected. This was mainly due to higher operational expenses, which included an E-rate project to replace our internet access points across the district. For this, we paid about $25,000 for the project. Had we not done it through E-rate, it would have cost us about $125,000. And then payroll expenses were just a tad lower than what we had projected. So we ended up with a net income when we actually were projected to have a net loss. So that is a good thing. Moving on to our key fund balances. You can see they are doing better than they were last year at this time. Our ed fund balance is $1,325,674. Our operations fund continues to be negative. We are negative $892,190. We do get our June tax draw this month, and we believe it should be just a little over $600,000 after we pay half of the tax anticipation warrant. So hopefully operations fund looks a little bit better next month. Reminder that while it will look better next month, for the rest of the year, July through December, it will continue to grow if it's negative, because we don't receive any income. We get our income in June and December. And rainy day is $610,489. And just a reminder that as we are using rainy day for some of our operational expenses, that number will continue to drop for the rest of this year. Now we will move on to our appropriations report. All right, we'll start with our education fund. Our target for this month is 41.6% of percent for appropriation collected or expended. You can see that our revenue is a little bit behind, and that is mainly due to when the budget was built, it was built on a certain number of enrollment, and when our enrollment came back lower, so that is why we have not collected enough, or the full 41.6%. So as we go through the year, we really need to keep an eye on that to see where revenue is at, and we need to make sure that we're not hitting 100% of appropriations in our ed fund. Also, if you look at expenses, you'll remember that at the beginning of the year, because we had 3 payrolls, we had several of them that were over the target. It's kind of starting to balance out. We have a few that are over, but they're just over by a little bit. So this is not anything that's of concern. Athletic coaches, because we do payouts just a few times a year, that's why that one is higher. As we move through the months, that will balance back out. Right now, our expenditures, we're at 39.2%, which is good because we know that we are not collecting the revenue that we need. Moving on to operations, our revenue, again, we collect our big revenue when we get our tax draws. We're at 32.2%, so about 9.4% below where we would like to be. Several of these lines continue to be over. These are ones, though, that we have moved to rainy day. So as we move through the year, we will continue to see these starting to balance out a little bit. So in total, we are at 46% of our appropriation. So again, we just want to see that continuing to get lower as we're using rainy day. Are there any questions?
Was there something that happened with the vehicle maintenance that
we had to have tires put
Okay.
on some of our buses. That was, we talked about that last month. And they were, if we did not replace them, they would not have passed bus inspection.
Oh, I remember that now. Sorry. Thanks.
Okay.
And when's the purchase of mobile or fixed?
That is our lease payments for our copy machines, and that's been moved to rainy day. Okay.
Okay. I'll accept the or all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next regular scheduled board meeting will be Monday, July 7th, 2025 at Wabash City Hall at 6:00 p.m. There's some items of communication. There's no old business, new business. Board will be presented with a recommendation to transition our current DLI program to a Spanish language and culture for all program.
Need a motion?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to go through this, and I'm going to start by saying, by no means do I feel that this program is not a good program. If I had a child that I would have brought in, I would have put them in the program as well. But I want to share some things with you that, as the superintendent of this district, that I think I have to consider. First off is impending financial changes. We have seen declining enrollment. Since 2021, we've dropped, we went up a little bit. From 23 to 24, we had a drop of about 53 kids. When you put that into dollars into our ed fund, our per pupil amount that we get, that was a reduction of $467,500. For 2025, the coming year, we could be, the estimate that I have is 1,342. But if we just roll all of our students up and we look at the graduating class that's leaving and the number of kindergarten students that we currently have enrolled, we could be as low as 1,320 students. So that's another loss of $460,500 in our ed fund. So over the course of last year and this coming year, we could see our ed fund budget dropping by about $1 million. There were legislative changes in House Bill 101, which is the budget bill. The new biennial budget gave us a 2% increase to our funding in Ed Fund. However, they did move curricular materials to Ed Fund, and I'm still not 100% sure if that 2% increase includes that money or if it's separate. Some say it's included, but I still haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe that it is. They've also reduced the number of seats for On My Way pre-K vouchers. We get a lot of reimbursements for students in our pre-K program. That and tuition is how we pay for our pre-K. So if that goes down, our Ed Fund is going to have to pick up more for pre-K. It also requires us to move the minimum teacher salary to $45,000. Currently, we have 36 out of 82 teachers that are below $45,000. I went through and calculated just to move those 36 teachers up to the $45,000, it would cost us about $95,000, and that's just salary. That does not include any of their benefits, and it also doesn't include a raise for the other 46 teachers. Legislative changes also, Senate Enrolled Act 1, which is the property tax breaks. This provides $1.3 million in property tax relief for homeowners over the next 3 years. And it's changing the way they're calculating money that goes into our operations fund. And the report that we have been given for calendar year 26, our operations, which you saw is still negative, we are going to get $134,930,000 less had this legislation not been passed. The following year, it goes up to $154,000, and in calendar year 28, we are predicted to get $785,000 less than what we would have received. So this is something that's very concerning because, like I said, our operations fund is already struggling. So over the past several years, we've done a lot of things to, work on saving money, getting that operations in line. We combined our middle school and high school, and this did reveal cost savings with staffing. We've re-examined ESSER funded positions, so anything that was an added position during ESSER has been done away with. We thought we were going to be able to keep them, but we've realized with our declining enrollment, less money in Ed Fund, we're going to have to do away with those. We've also done some operational changes. We implemented walking routes a few years ago. We absorbed some drivers. We eliminated ESSER funded contracts. And we've reduced administrative staffing by redistributing work. This is both at building levels and at the district level. So as we look to the future, we have to consider how our enrollment and legislative changes will affect our budgets. We can't keep doing the same thing with less money. So my recommendation is moving from a DLI to a language and culture for all. And some of the rationale behind that, one, we struggle to find DLI teachers. This is something that's, surrounding schools face the same issue. Districts that are in larger communities can offer higher salaries than we can. The interest in DLI is not what it was when it started. I was not here when it started. I was told that in the beginning, classes at each grade level, we would have 40 to 50 students between the two classes. The last 2 years, we did cap the enrollment because we were trying to do a looping option to see if that might save the DLI program. But we still had to talk people into enrolling their students. The state has also done away with the DLI grant because of their budget cuts. Now, it wasn't huge, but it did offset the costs. So those are things that we're going to have to start picking up. And the main rationale is we know that learning a language at a young age helps with brain development. And so let's give this to all students and not just a select few. So the transition would be that all students that are currently in the program would be able to continue through graduation. So for the 25-26, DLI would be in grades 1 through 8. And then 26-27, it would rotate up to grades 2 through 9, and it would keep going 3 through 10, etc. So those that started it will be able to finish it. Beginning in the 26-27 school year, we would add a Spanish language and culture class at OJ as one of their specials class. They would no longer do library, instead they would do the Spanish language and culture. This would start with first grade in that first year, and by 2029-2030, all students at OJ would have a once a week Spanish language and culture class. So the benefits of making this transition, all students will have the opportunity to begin learning Spanish and about the Spanish culture. Will students be bilingual at the end of this? No, and we know that. But what it will do is it will allow students to have the neural pathway connections formed later for learning a language. It will allow students the curiosity, give them the curiosity about other language, cultures, and people. And it will expose our students. We know that exposure to more than one language is helpful in cognitive development. We would move from 6 teachers to 2, and we are still offering something unique. So our next step, this is my recommendation, and I will say, like I said, it is not anything about the quality of the program. It is based on, one, what is best for all students in our district. It's also about keeping good teachers we have. When you look at what's coming down the pike for us in regards to our education funding, last year we gave a very minuscule raise to our teachers. And if we don't do something where we are able to give our teachers better raises, we're going to lose good teachers in all the other areas. It also considers our current and future financial condition. So like I said, this is my recommendation. Obviously, the board will make the final decision.
Okay, now that Dr. Sibley is presented, we'll take comments. For board policy, we will allow up to 30 to 45 minutes for comments. If you wish to address the board, please come to the microphone over here on the right and form a line. You will be given up to 3 minutes. When it is your turn, please state your name and address. And a reminder, this is not a Q&A with the board. It's a time for you to have your comments heard. Does the board have any questions?
We'll do that after the.
Okay.
Good evening, my name is Marie Kaufman, and I have a daughter, Camille, that is in the Spanish program and has been from the get-go. I was here when it started, so I have seen its fruition and coming to be, and all of the interest and excitement that was around it initially. I know that it did take, I would say, a good year in market research and analyzing different options before we decided to go with it, and I would hope that before we decide to completely do away with it, that we would also take some time to give the community and parents and the people that are interested, students, the time to come up with maybe ideas. I guess my main thoughts are, what's the conversation that we can have of what we need to do to keep this program? I understand all of the things, and I know, Dr. Sibley, the school is in tough times, and you've done a great job in trying to find ways to cut, but it does make me think when things are hard and if it's hard to attract people, I don't know that that's the time that we want to be cutting a program that actually brings a lot of interest and gives Wabash City Schools something that's unique. I know since the announcement just a few days ago on different forums, on social media accounts, I've seen comments saying, we'll pull out, we'll send our kids to Manchester or Warsaw. I know that this is a big draw for many families, and I know looking at the cost, saving salaries for teachers. I am curious how that actually comes about, because we still have to have teachers to teach them whether in English or Spanish. So is the plan just making the English instruction classes larger, or just kind of spreading those students into other classes and having more students with fewer teachers? And that of course is going to negatively affect the quality of education. I think we all agree that the program is a success, that the kids that take it are excelling academically, that it's a good thing for our community and a big draw. I was recently at an economic development panel speaking, and I mentioned this program that Wabash has and talked about other development programs going on, and afterwards all of the people there, they wanted to ask me about this program. They didn't care about the commercial redevelopment and all these projects. They were fascinated with this program, and I think what it shows the community and the world and economic investors or people that are looking into Wabash, that Wabash City Schools is forward thinking, that we are committed to making our students global citizens and improving their education. And so I would hope we could have the conversation, what does it mean, what needs to happen for us to maintain this program? And I think we're all capable and smart, and our community is very dedicated, and hopefully we could have the conversation of what we need to bring so that we can have it, and hopefully with marketing and pushing these special programs, this is an amazing program, that it would garner more interest. And I hate to see something that's actually bringing so much interest to the school to leave, and then those families possibly leave, and then we're left with a bigger deficit afterwards. So I hope we can have the conversation of what needs to happen for us to keep this program. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Scott Long, if you didn't know. Since I took office in 2016, I've stated multiple times, our education system is the foundation for economic development. The introduction of the DLI program just exacerbated that in my mind. And like Marie just stated, when I travel and I'm speaking to different mayors, different companies that are interested in locating in Wabash, this DLI program is a big selling point for us. Our school system's about education and giving our students a well-rounded education. My son Tyler has been in it since pre-K. He's doing very well in it, and it's helping him in his other classes. Fully understand the budgetary constraints that you guys are facing, because our losses are going to be larger in the city than what the school system is. I'm here to fight to continue this program, not phase it out. I guess my question is, have other funding opportunities been explored? Have we talked to our local manufacturers? Do they see a benefit of having bilingual people coming out of our school into their companies? I just paid, I think, $3,000 for the two youngest children to attend preschool and pre-kindergarten, because I don't qualify for all my way pre-K vouchers. I'd be willing to pay $3,000 to have those kids enroll in this program at the pre-K level or kindergarten level. I'd be willing to pay for Landon to continue on. And I think there's a lot of parents who think it's vitally important for their children to get dual language, that they would be willing to pay for those classes also. I think that needs to be explored. This program sets Wabash City Schools apart from the other districts in the area. And I hate to say make us unique, because it's been stated already, but it does make us unique. I've shared Sarah Degadio as an employee with the city schools for a number of years. I don't want to lose that asset. She does great work for me on international stuff, and she's valuable to me in the city. My only request is that you think long and hard about phasing out this program before making a final decision. Keep Wabash City Schools strong and a sales tool for the local government and economic development agency to attract business and industry. I don't want us to be just another school district. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Scholl, and I have a son in the DLI program. He's in the flagship class, and he's here today. He and another DLIer. We actually chose to hold Dimitri back a year so that he could join his program with his friends. And when I check in with him, like, oh, would you, do you still want to do this? Like, what happens if, he's a part of this class. These are his people, and whatever happens for DLI, whether it continues to improve, whether it doesn't, we're here till the end. And he's my youngest, so I'm here to speak because I'm a member of the community. And I'm not only worried about my kids' education, I think that education is so important, and we have, every couple of years, we've got a new big battle. Something gets, worn out, derailed, we have a new program we need to replace another one with, and I get it. I've never really had many demands or high expectations, because I know your plate is very, very, very full. The job is too big, I get it. But we have decided to do DLI. And we've been through some things over the years, and we've lost some people, we've lost some interest, true. Have we done the work? Have we really given the program a chance? Have we said yes enough to supplemental programming and activities and planning that would have supported the program and retained the families who we lost that year? We lost a lot of families one year because they saw that we were going to kind of do the minimum with the DLI program, that we weren't going to choose to afford to do more than we had to. And that wasn't sounding like a real commitment to them. I think they were right. It's not too late. Obviously, we can decide to keep the program. I think it's really important to ask what needs to happen that didn't happen before. And, for all those good reasons, so we can be global citizens, so that we can continue to stand out, so we can be special. These kids do tend to be the higher scoring kids, and maybe that's because they have parents who are more supportive and are putting them in this program. I get it. I was part of a special program when I was a kid. It's got its ups and it's got its downs to be so special. And I get it. It's not an easy situation, but we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't continue to try, or rather, if we didn't begin to try harder. I feel that there is, especially now that we're way more grades, we're kindergarten through 7th grade right now, that's a lot of parents, it's a lot of community, a lot of people with a lot of skills that we can draw from. There's definitely some brainstorming and creative, thinking that we can do to work around some of the issues that we're dealing with. I think there could be other places to look for cuts. I know everyone, wants it to not be in my backyard, but I feel like the quickness with which the program is put on the cutting board kind of is a testament to what we've been feeling for several years, which is that it's not been prioritized very much. I would love to help. I am a parent who speaks Spanish, who teaches all different ages, but I'm also, a concerned citizen, and I think fundraising is not something, I know it's a tricky thing with education. The schools kind of have their job to do, but there are things, including hosting students brings in some revenue. I know sports, they make a lot of money for us, right? So how could DLI be positioned to be bringing in, we did the Lion King that one year, great thing, started by the teachers. But by the end, we had a huge production, and we see great productions from visiting students, the Japanese in particular. So I can imagine, having more after-school programming, enriching activities that maybe then turn into more, whether we can sell tickets to a cultural event or have, put on a gala each year, what have you. Maybe we partner with local businesses, maybe we partner with the city, maybe we come to, some kind of, we just haven't had that yet. In all of these 7 years, we have not had a coming together outside of what's going on in school. And so I think, there are things that we can explore. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Hello, everybody. My name is Mackenzie Coulter-Kern, and I'm actually from Manchester. But I'm here today as a county neighbor to applaud the work that you guys have done with the DLI program. And I know how hard budgeting and budget constraints are, and you guys have a lot of tough decisions. But I'm here to keep cheering you on. I know that so much work, so much funding, so much energy, and so many resources have gone into the creation of the DLI program. Your DLI program is farther along than the one in Manchester. You guys are already seeing the benefits on test scores for both students who are native English speakers as well as non-native English speakers. We're seeing those benefits that everybody else talks about. And so we see the Wabash DLI program as like something to aspire to. So first off, I just want to congratulate you guys on how much you've invested in this program, and say I also understand a lot of the tough decisions that you guys have on the table and appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and this openness to brainstorming with the community about other possible solutions other than eliminating the program. I should say too, my PhD is in Hispanic linguistics. So I have a doctorate in Hispanic linguistics with a focus in second language acquisition, and much of my research is on emerging bilinguals, which is young bilinguals, and what are the benefits of learning a second language. So I just wanted to talk about some of the benefits that I know are happening in this DLI program, and then I wanted to propose some additional potential solutions of ideas to brainstorm over, and yeah, so I'll kind of jump in. I know that one of the things that you guys are thinking about, and we all have in common also in Manchester, is we want to close our achievement gaps for our students. That is something that we see in these DLI programs, is they can close those for students. DLI programs result in higher academic performance for everybody, partly because even for native Spanish speakers, having a strong foundation in their native language can boost them, but it boosts English speakers too. It can attract more families, especially if we're bringing in businesses from other places around the world. These DLI programs are a huge attraction. And sometimes people say they even create this like magnet effect. And sometimes that can take a couple years. Just as we don't always see those benefits of the DLI programs in kindergarten, first and second grade, maybe some of those benefits for attracting families are delayed too, right? So maybe the word is just getting out about how awesome this program is. They can also reduce attrition. So as we heard from Mandy and some of the other families that I know are here, it gets parents deeply invested in schools in a way that they might not be otherwise. So it can help reduce attrition because they have this kind of special attachment to the school. It supports your English language learners. I know sometimes teachers have to hire, or not teachers, schools have to hire additional teachers for English language learners. And with the DLI program, many of your DLI teachers act as those Latino liaisons for your schools. And so it actually reduces the need for you to hire additional DLI teachers. It can enhance your school reputation For example, it kind of improves the school's overall profile. It can build cultural ties within your community. I know that we've been in dialogue about the upcoming Hispanic Heritage Festival and how we can collaborate with the DLI program. I wouldn't necessarily have reached out to the schools if that program wasn't, if there was this culture program, for example, that wouldn't have been on my radar. But knowing that the DLI program was here was a reason we're like, we should try to do something with Wabash City Schools. It also, there's some additional cognitive benefits to this that I think are really important. And I know you touched on a couple of these as well, but there's increased cognitive flexibility. Specifically, we often see this research in DLI programs. We don't see it in the same way in like the cultural kind of this one class for everybody program, but cognitive flexibility in terms of switching tasks. I don't know if you guys are as susceptible to scrolling on your phones. We know that social media and iPhones are kind of a huge issue right now, right? It's been a lot in the news. Learning a second language to the degree that you do in the DLI program really helps students with that cognitive flexibility. It also helps them with their inhibitory control, so being able to focus, just because of some of those neural pathways that we're getting inside a program like a DLI program. It can help with their working memory, so how we can hold information when we switch to a task. It can enhance students' problem-solving skills. And one of the big things I think is interesting, we talked about these short-term benefits, but one of the long-term benefits of these DLI programs, because of the degree of bilingualism that students get to in a DLI, it can delay the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia, which we know is a huge thing. And so that's the big one. A couple of there's also these economic benefits, kind of as Mayor Long mentioned, a more competitive workforce. You guys are going to graduate, if you can keep this, you will graduate students with this huge bilingual capability that is so needed. We have seen a huge increase of Spanish speakers in Wabash County through my work, and so if you can continue this program, I think Wabash will be particularly competitive, and your students and the parents of the students would be really excited about that too. A couple of the solutions I wanted to just bring up. I spoke with the Manchester Community Schools superintendent before this, and I was like, would you ever be able to share something? What would that? I don't think at this time that would be a possibility. But one thing that we did think of was, I know, for example, when I was in elementary school, we combined 3rd and 4th grade. Like I was in a program called Gemini. It was some other added benefit program, and we were in a 3rd and 4th grade class. And that was one of my thoughts for your higher level classes, for something like 5th and 6th grade, is if those sections are small, rather than eliminating them, why not have them combined so that they can share a teacher potentially if they were small, rather than eliminating this program. Because I think you've dedicated so many resources to it. Or, for example, I adjunct teach at Manchester University. I know there are several Manchester University grads and that are going to be graduating with degrees in Spanish and education. Why not have university grads doing some of their student teaching in your class? These are just ideas for how could you kind of supplement this funding or kind of work around. So just want to say congratulations on having such a wonderful DLI program. I hope that you can brainstorm some of these options, and thank you so much for having me.
Good evening. My name is Maggie Wimberly. I reside at 141 East Hill Street in Wabash. I attended Fort Wayne's first magnet elementary school from 1980 to 1985, where I received 1 hour of Spanish instruction per week from Senora Bianca. 5 years, 1 hour a week, 36 hours a year. Fast forward several decades, and my husband Claire and I enrolled our daughter Rebecca in the dual language immersion program in the fall of 2019. Even with the disruption to her kindergarten year caused by COVID, she surpassed all expectations for both fluency and proficiency after just 1 year. This is not surprising. While I received approximately 36 hours of Spanish instruction per year, DLI students received that same amount in less than 2 weeks. The impact of that difference is profound. I urge you to reconsider your proposition. Eliminating or scaling back this program will come at a great cost, I fear. Future students will lose a valuable educational opportunity. Families considering Wabash may choose instead to relocate to communities like North Manchester or Warsaw that offer thriving DLI programs and the rich cultural connections this program has fostered within our schools and communities will begin to fade. For our family, the DLI program has been the primary reason to stay anchored to Wabash City Schools. I believe that many other participating families would wholeheartedly echo the sentiment. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Lacey Taylor. My son has Asperger's syndrome, so a lot of times that ends with very high academic skills, but low social emotional skills. My son has a third grade level, but socially emotionally still in preschool. He struggles a lot with these things. Due to the dual immersion program, my son has been able to stay at an academic level that is suitable to his age and still be challenged. I know that my son is not the only one that would benefit from this program. I know there are a lot of students in the area that they struggle with things, being smarter than other kids, or, they behaviorally can't handle it. But being able to be challenged in the classroom has changed my son's academic career. We went to Southwood. It wasn't a good fit for us. He couldn't handle being in a regular classroom and being able to do what they were doing and move on within just a few minutes. This program deserves to be fought for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tracy Griffith, and I have two children in the DLI program, one that's going into the 8th grade and one that's going into the 7th grade. So I'm very familiar with the program and how it works, or what is going on. I'm not going to make this very long, and I know there's not questions that we're not supposed to direct questions, but I have some questions, and I have a little bit of concerns or whatever. But as a parent, I will have to say that I was super excited when we got the opportunity to enroll in this program. I was so excited, actually. I thought, what a great opportunity for Wabash. To be 100%, we're not really known to be very inclusive or diverse around here. So the fact that somebody had thought, let's start this program and let's see how this works, I was excited. But since then, I feel like the program has never fully got support. I feel like we are really good about telling people that we offer the program. I feel like we're great about reaching out and just bragging about it, but when it comes to support, it's just not there. 53 kids dropping in the 2023-2024 school year is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, really, that's ridiculous. 53 kids in a small program like that? Why? Why did 53 kids drop out? Why do 53 parents not want their kids to be in the program anymore? I can tell you personally that my two children maintain A's and B's in both of them in their Spanish classes, and I have forced them to stay in Spanish for the last 3 years. Why? Because I believe in the program that much, that I'll fight my own children to stay in it, because I know what it will bring for their future. I know when they go out into the world, them being a part of this program will make them better people. It will make our community a better community. It will make our state a better state. It will make businesses want to come here. It will make people want to stay here. So my question is the solution completely unattainable? And why are we just now bringing it to the parents' attention and to a bigger scale attention that this is where we're headed? I mean, this clearly just didn't happen overnight. I've been to multiple meetings and I've brought up this question before. What happens if we keep losing kids and they dissolve the program? And every time I've been told, that's crazy, Tracy, that will never happen. Yet here we are. Here we are. I'm just so disappointed. I understand that funding this program is an expense. And I know that we've gotten grant money up until this point, and some grants and money are in changes. I get that. I don't know the whole financial side of it, but I feel like we have to reach out to the community and the parents and let them try to help us. At least try. I feel like just this option of just like, oh, let's go down to 1 hour a week is not even trying. It's giving up, and that's not fair. That's not fair to every parent sitting here. That's not fair to every child who has worked that hard. It's not fair to future children in this community. So is it unattainable completely, or are we just not looking for solutions? I think that there are a lot of great solutions that were suggested before by other people, fundraising, maybe other grant writing, maybe business outreach, partnering with bigger businesses, promoting the program better. I know we are pretty good about promoting it, but promoting it and supporting it. I don't feel like bringing a teacher here from another country 3 days before school year starts and says, here you go, here's a classroom full of kids and have zero support backing them. Like, that's just crazy to me. I feel like all of our kids matter in this community and all languages matter, and here in Wabash we can represent both. So I just really think that we need to just pause for a half a second and kind of come together and maybe talk this through and see if we can't come up with a solution. Because I would really, 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 really hate for this to end over money, when in the long term, this could be one of the greatest investments Wabash has ever had in the community. So, thank you.
Wow, that's a hard act to follow. Thank you for your passion. My name is Amanda Lopez. I live at 1086 Minton Drive. I have a son, Luke, who's in 5th grade now, rising 5th grader, and has been in the program since pre-K. And he absolutely loves the program. And what I think is so interesting about the program, in addition to his ability to actually learn the language and speak so well with his accent and dialect, is just his global awareness and appreciation for other cultures. And I absolutely do not think he would get that appreciation with an hour a week of exposure. He loves learning about all these other Spanish-speaking countries and cultures. I believe part of that has been the opportunity to have teachers from other countries, that our students don't get that opportunity, and just the deeper awareness that they get for this exposure and inclusion. And I think about the citizens that we are being able to raise and the future leaders that we're able to produce for our community. So just wanted to share that personal perspective and love for this program. It's also interesting, my daughter, Victoria, who's going into 9th grade and just missed the cutoff. The program started right after her, but she started taking Spanish this year in 8th grade, offered for 8th graders. And her 4th grade brother would correct her Spanish and would be the one to teach her Spanish, right? Which no older sibling wants to have. But that just shows the level of, he was literally her Spanish teacher, doing homework, practicing for a test. She probably would hate that I would share this. But it just shows the high level that they're learning. So I just wanted to share. I also have a couple of questions that I'd like to pose, but then also maybe some solutions. So I do want to know specifically, how much extra does this program cost? So we heard, very large, bleak financial outlook, and that this program does cost extra through additional staffing, program fees. I want to know actually, what does it cost? And what do we need to raise in order to supplement that? So we had an individual in the community who valued the appreciation of having licensed special teachers, and we figured out what was that extra cost to have a licensed art teacher, licensed gym teacher, and a member of the community came forward. So what does it cost to continue to maintain the DLI program as it grows? So then we, as a collective community, understand what are the funding streams, both short-term and long-term, to sustain that program. I run a consulting firm called Transformed Consulting Group. We help organizations, including fundraising and fund development. We work with nonprofits, schools, foundations. I'd be willing to volunteer the services of our firm to help the school determine what are some funding streams and mechanisms. So please let me know. As you shared, the horizon for public school funding is bleak. And unfortunately, it's not getting any better. And as much as we're trying in our community to grow our population, right? And education is one of those core principles in our Imagine 185 plan. We have to have strong schools to attract families here. That's a long-term solution. So I think we need to start looking creatively at our public school funding. The situation has changed. We see that at the state level. We're seeing it here locally. So instead of shrinking and cutting, what can we do to grow our pie and think externally? And that's where leveraging your community is the way to do that. And we could be a leader for that in our state. And I especially think rural communities are even more challenged with our funding constraints. So I ask the board, please take some time to engage the community, to reach out to leaders, to supporters, to have us come collectively with you. This is a big issue. It's not going to be an issue you need to tackle on your own. Have outside perspectives come together. Let's all come up with a collective plan, because it's a big problem. We need to have multiple solutions, short-term and long-term, to be able to continue the program. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jared Kopp. I'm Jared Kaufman. Speak loud. I'm Jared Kaufman. I have one student in the program, and just we've heard a lot of opinions and a lot of comments, and we heard about testing and how this helps educationally, and I've heard rumors. I've never seen the numbers, but I've heard rumors that the students in this program do better than the ones not in the program. So, and all the other benefits that have been talked about tonight. We've talked about the benefit to people to speaking multiple languages. As an employer in the community, I often find myself the only person in the office that speaks Spanish, and we're having an increasing number of people come through, Spanish patients that I find myself overtaking vitals because none of my MAs speak Spanish, and so they can't take the vitals, they can't room a patient. And I would love to have opportunities to hire Spanish-speaking people. There's real tangible benefits to this, but ultimately with this, from the presentation and everything else, it seems to be coming down to numbers. When you're running a business, and you decide, okay, we're in the red, we need to cut things, we need to streamline or change things to get back in the black, the things that you cut are the bloat and the fluff and the distractions and the inefficiencies. And the things that you keep and that you streamline and you focus on and you advertise are your assets. And to me, this seems like an asset, not bloat, not an inefficiency. And then going back to, people have also talked about the actual numbers. None of us have any idea what those numbers look like. How much do you really save by shutting it down, and what is the actual number of additional students that you need to poach from other schools to cover that deficit? And then look at the population that's in there, and you've locked them in for 12 years, and do you really not recruit enough students from other schools to cover that increased expense? And maybe you don't. Like I said, I don't know those numbers. But if I were sitting there, I would want to know those numbers before I voted. So just something to think about.
Thank you.
Thanks. Josh Trinnew. I live at 1760. I don't know. It always costs extra. Anyway. So I have a whole story to share about Spanish. We can talk about that afterwards. You guys put in a lot of time, and I know how excruciating it is for everybody up there to sit through these really long things. I've been a part of this in different roles, husband, attorney, and all that. Happy to talk about that later. But really, one of the main points I came up here to talk about, and as I got going, it just kept piggybacking. It was there. Before you kill this, before you put it out to pasture, give this group an opportunity to take our best shot at it. Let us leverage our checkbooks, our networks, our brain power, our checkbooks, and let us give it a shot. One thing that we're already going to be up against, because I see the way this is being framed, and whoever framed it this way, if it was intentional, check, maybe, you got us. But framing this as staff salaries against this program, man, we are up against it. We're up against it. That's got to have a corrosive effect on morale. And if that's already out in the water, which it probably is, man, it makes our job that much harder. But it was never easy to begin with. So give this group a shot. Let us try.
Thank you.
I don't have much fancy stuff to say. My name is Catherine Kramer. I'm actually from Miami County. My parents were born here and I went to Southwood, but currently my husband and I drive crazy amounts, different directions, and we still drive our kids here because my son, who is 8 right now, was able to start this new Alex. But she was this issue. And we just absolutely love this program. I think it was great. I've gotten a chance to travel to Nicaragua and wish that I could have spoken better Spanish when I was there. And I don't know if you guys, any of you, have tried to learn a new language or if any of you are bilingual, but unless you learn it as a kid, it doesn't stick as well. And I think that there's just really an imperative to get that language into our children like so many other countries do. It is a requirement for so many other countries that are our trading partners. Their students are bilingual. They're already a step up in the business workforce and just in general because that's what they do as a general. Everybody does that. I don't know why it's an exception in the US, but I don't mean all of this sound confrontational, but I went to a DLI meeting in the library at OJ within the last year and asked very pointed questions about finances due to the very apparent attrition rate when kids are falling out, and I was told you can't jump in later in the program. My question was, well, what happens when, that junior class of kids has 10 people in it or 5 people in it? You're gonna have to fund a teacher for that. And I was again assured, just like other people, oh, not a problem, not a big deal. So the thing that frustrates me at this point is I already knew that was a thing almost a year ago, and we could have started dealing with these issues prior to this. I don't know why it's been 1 week and suddenly the program is ending, and that's the first I've ever heard of it as a parent of the program. Having asked those really specific questions prior, because, we understand funding is all it is, and I'm so sorry that you have to deal with cutting those sorts of things, but I took an hour of German when I was younger. I learned the names of animals and colors, and that was really cool. And I also now know how to ask for a beer in many different languages, but that doesn't get me anything when it comes to actually having a meaningful, functional conversation about anything. You can ask where the bathroom is, and that's really good. But if you're my cousin who goes down to Costa Rica to sell water pipelines, gets to nowhere, he has to be fluent. If you're a fellow named Noah that I know was hired at Fort Leader Box in part because he was bilingual and able to, fully go through the entire transaction process with people from other countries selling goods and wares. I mean, that's what we need, and that's what our kids need to learn. All right, well, anyway, I will get out of here, but I do get the funding is the issue. And I will say, I know that there's a lot of cuts. I won't get political, but I know you guys are gonna be on the run of some kind of cuts from the state with funding, and we want to help with that. I don't want the public school that we have here in Wabash, which has been so wonderful, to be decimated by people deciding to take their kids to homeschool or to pay for private schools because we can't offer what they can or what the perceived notion is what they can offer. So just like it has been mentioned, I would pay money to keep my kid in this program. We want to know what the numbers are. We want to know what the salaries take because I would reach in for the pocketbook and fund this because it is just so worthwhile. Don't make people go to private schools. Why don't we have a little element of the private school aspect in Wabash where we could give a little additional funding for specific programs? And it's not a pay and play, but it's just showing our support. And if that seems a little trivial, perhaps there's some fundraising things that we can do to offset those costs. But we do need a heads up, more than a week, because we can't make that happen without a heads up. We'd love to work with you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Delville. I actually live in Huntertown. So that's over an hour drive if you're not familiar with where Huntertown is. And I've continued to make that drive for quite a while because I believe in this program. In fact, I've been trying to convince my husband to move, but he doesn't want to make the drive back to Fort Wayne. So we're not there yet. But my husband grew up in a bilingual program in Bolivia, where he's from. He learned how to read in English before he learned how to read in Spanish because he was taught his classes primarily in English. And today he speaks 3 languages and is highly sought after from employers because of his skill set. Not only does he speak English and Spanish, but he speaks Portuguese as well. He is an engineer. He has major focus that I wish I had, but I don't. And I really contribute that a lot to his language skills. I, like many people, have probably learned a second language in high school for a very short time. I didn't speak the language when I graduated high school. I went to Mexico. I still didn't speak the language, but they threw me right out there and said, translate for these people. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. But nonetheless, you can pick it up later, but it's a lot more difficult and you don't become as proficient. And like many people said here today, it's the cost of the program, if that's the big draw down for getting rid of the program. If we're going from 6 teachers to 2 teachers, the cost of those 4 teachers, I think we need to give respect to the community that we can come up with the amount of money needed for 4 teachers. There are ways to make money. We've talked about this before with short-term exchanges, with international students, to bring in funds. Those students always bring funds with them. And there's been many of these parents who have hosted international students in their homes, which has been amazing, because they believe not only in the program of hosting the students, but also because of what it does for their family and for the community as well. I do believe, being on the inside, that we haven't done a great job marketing it. I feel like we haven't done a great job marketing it internally as well, because we don't have everybody on board. And I would love to have everyone on board, but we don't. And I think that there's ways that we can invite kids into the program that would fill those classes, that would allow us not to have smaller classes in the DLI. And if you did do away with this current structure of DLI, you are then putting those kids into the other classrooms, which is making those classrooms larger than the current teachers. So triple that with not great pay, those teachers are going to say, hey, you don't need to be here, right? So that's not obviously the way that we want to go with the teachers that are currently here as well. The other thing I just want to mention real quick is these students are doing better academically than the non-DLI students. They are achieving higher test scores in the standardized testing. They are coming just as the statistics show. They are doing better, they're focusing stronger, they're becoming more and more bilingual every day. But that is a big testament. What if we took away what this is offering, how are we challenging those students to achieve higher? How are we challenging those kids? That 1 hour a week won't challenge these kids, not just in the brain development, but in their academics. So that's the big part I want to also make sure is noted, that what would challenge them? What are we replacing the challenge with? Are we just going to teach to the status quo? Are we going to teach a lower level? The last thing I want to mention too is Indiana in 2024 grew by international migration in. So Indiana grew by 31,000 for international migration in. Domestic migration was 4,200. There's a huge number of people coming to our state because they're from other countries. This is the time to double down, not the time to withdraw. And like I said, it takes time for these things to happen, but we're seeing international companies show interest. Some of you guys might not like all the international companies, but they show interest in Wabash because we have programs like this. When we talk about foreign direct investment and what's coming into the state of Indiana, and particularly Wabash and the work that the mayor has done and Tennille and her staff, this is what we mean. They are marketing the DLI program beyond our county borders. And that's a big piece to helping this community grow. If we don't have abilities or assets to show outside of this community, people aren't going to be attracted to come in. So great things are not always easy, but they're usually worth it.
Hello, my name is Doug Small. I live at 290 East Main Street here in the fine city of Wabash. I came here to this town 13 years ago from Paramount in the Marion area, and I had no idea anything was even ever considered in a school such as a DLI program. And I want to echo a couple of points that have been made, one by Tracy. I don't know who made the other comment, but coming from a student's perspective, my son Jeffrey, he high honor roll all year, dual sport athlete, spring, fall. most polite kid has some of the best friends in this DLI program, Cruzella. I mean, sorry.
Pandora.
And Pandora, yeah, it's been a while since we've hung out, since he's out of baseball, but, you know, this program was sold with great fervor in elementary school, and we were just sold on it, we were so excited. And my son, the last 2 years, we've had to talk him into staying in the program. But from that student's perspective, he feels unsupported in the classroom because of the teacher, for lack of a better word, unable to control a classroom. And that's where I feel this program has been unsupported, and that's why we see the declining enrollment, because of what's going on in the classroom. And there are excellent kids. I know, I interact with these kids almost weekly. Bennett Fry, I mean, good kids, and I really hate it would be a disservice to these kids and this community to tank this program without really taking a good, hard look at it, like other people have said, and coming up with something else, alternative. If it's parents' pocketbooks, so be it. But we need to come up with something else rather than just tanking this program in such a hurry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, it's Neil Zartman, 515 Crown Hill Drive. Wearing two hats tonight. First off, I have a daughter in the program in the kindergarten class, so she's in her second year now, doing amazing with it. Honestly, we're out of district. Neighbor here in county, I don't know how it works, but I'm out of district, so choose to send my child to Wabash City, and this was a big part of why we chose to send her. So that's my parent hat. Other hat, day job, economic development and chamber of commerce, Wabash County, so I'm the president and CEO there. And just echoing what these parents already touched on, you guys are great economic developers, by the way. I brag on this program all the time. It's really important for business attraction and retention. So speaking on behalf of our businesses, but then also from the people side, people are choosing to move to Wabash. We can build houses faster. I think we'll have more people here. And I think a big draw to your school district is this program. We have a remote talent attraction program, and all of them, sorry for my other government partners that I work with, have chose to live in Wabash. And several of them have cited this program for why they chose to move to Wabash. So I want to touch on just business development and attraction, people attraction and development, as well as workforce development. These kids are coming out with a huge advantage. So with that, not here to criticize, I know it's a tough task, almost $1 million shortfall is difficult, but I think, so I've got your working group for you. And simply, you've got a diversity director, you've got a mayor, City of Wabash, you've got the director of the Community Foundations with us tonight. We've got economic development and chamber organization, private consultant firms, and I think Josh will here his attorney services perhaps, maybe not, but we've got a good working group. So hopefully take us up on the offer, let us help you and see if there is alternatives, and if not, then we tried our hardest to save you. So that's just my offer of support, and thank you for what you do. We greatly appreciate you all.
Thank you. Amanda will be our last speaker.
Hello, I'm Amanda Martinez-Ellett. Sorry. I live in Urbana. Sorry to get emotional. I have been here since the very beginning. My son was the first kindergarten class. And I have seen these teachers work so hard, including myself, because I became the first pre-K teacher. We all had to work so hard in developing the curriculum and the schedule and trying to figure out what we were going to do with our kiddos. Mainly me, I had really no one to seek advice from. We were just like kind of winging it, but we did it and we have grown, and I feel like stopping now, it just really doesn't. We're just now getting to see what our kids are accomplishing. We're just now getting to read our papers, right? So I'm just going to read something real quick from my son, who is going to be in 8th grade. And he just says, I personally like the program because it helped me to speak to my family members. better and learn about the history of Spanish-speaking countries, because I'd like to learn about history. Also, over the past 8 years, I have really enjoyed learning with my teacher and going on field trips. Our teachers, like Sarah, who she calls you teacher, and whoever else is in charge of the DLI program, have made it an enjoyable 8 years, and I want other kids to experience what I have. And without DLI, we wouldn't have the Aventura camp. The camp, in my eyes, was very fun, and I would still participate if I could. The camp is full of games and field trips and cultural activities, so we can learn while having fun. I hope that all people who come to America to teach us are happy with the program. Without DLI, they might have trouble finding jobs here, and they will return to their countries. So he goes on to say, the DLI program is not just an opportunity for the students, but also for teachers, and I appreciate the work that they've done to teach us. So again, we worked really, really hard as teachers and parents trying to promote our own program, because again, the support has really just not been there. And I've sat in on meetings where I've had principals saying, you've been put on the back burner for the last year. We've always been on the back burner. Our kids deserve better. And we as parents are really trying, and again, like we are the ones promoting our program. I have sat in on so many meetings with parents, whether it be kindergarten roundup or parent-teacher conferences, and they've said, I did not know this program existed. I had no idea Wabash was doing this. So it's not out there enough, and so many parents, like Kenzie's mom, just love the program, and I've had just so many wonderful experiences with my kiddos, my 4-year-olds who are excited to learn, and who are also correcting their older siblings or their parents when they go order queso at a Mexican restaurant, and they'll correct them. That's not how you say, Mom, it's queso, with the accent, because that's what they're learning. So I just really hope, again, you guys consider, and again, just take a second to consider just keeping us in here. At the awards night, before the last day of school, the 7th and 8th grade awards program, I sat in and watched my son receive 3 different awards for 3 completely different things. In music, he's thriving, and I'm like, where does he get this from? Because I can't play a single note. My husband can't either. So as I was watching my son receive these 3 awards the whole time I was here, I kept saying, that kid was in DLI, that kid is in DLI. All those kids receiving these awards are in DLI. I've had teachers tell me, oh, all of these students are in high ability classes. So they are just thriving, they're doing so well. Yeah, not all of them, not everyone's getting A+, but that's in every grade, every class. But our kids are doing well. I'm just glad that we've had the opportunity to give, such a small town a window into the world, just a window into the world. And I don't want that window to close, but if it does, can we open a door? Can we do that? And there's just one last quote, and I will be done. Sorry. I don't know who said this, but if you can talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody who has come to speak and given us a lot to consider. Does the board have any questions? Comments? I know we have some open positions. How many have we filled for the next year? I know we lost some of our.
We lost 4, and we have 1 of them filled. Okay. So that's some of the reason why at times we have teachers coming in hot 3 days before the school year.
So what are the biggest challenges?
wait,
Sorry, Sarah.
Can
Sarah.
I speak to that a bit?
Yes, please.
So we have made offers to other teachers. They haven't accepted those offers because it's not enough. It's
Not enough money.
Not enough money?
not enough money, right? So sometimes they look at bigger cities as well. right? So we're not competing against just our
Yeah.
area schools, we are competing against Indianapolis, who can offer more. Now, we do cost comparisons and show the cost of living in these different communities so they can recognize the difference. The embassy also vouches for us. The Spanish embassy out of Indianapolis will also encourage teachers to select us because of our program, because we're actually considered an international Spanish academy through the Spanish embassy. We also receive a para because of that for free. That we won't; those things will go away if we change the program. So those won't be available to us anymore. Sometimes we're within 5,000 or 10,000 to get these teachers. So it's not like we're breaking the bank. It's just they do have a higher skill set that we're asking them to use. So they feel that pay should be appropriate.
What type of education do they come with us? Like,
Many of them come with masters.
okay.
We have one currently that's with us that has her doctorate. But many of them come with years of experience teaching as well. And so that does cost more when they come back. We've looked for other teachers who haven't had as much experience or maybe just have a bachelor's degree because we don't have to pay them as much, right? And trying to get those. It's not that we can't find teachers, it's just harder, right? Because we are competing. But having the International Spanish Academy designation helps. Having parents' testimonies and kids in the program, support from economic development and the city. Those are all things that we push forward and say, look at our community who's supporting this program as we market to these teachers to come.
Okay, Jason?
That answered most of my questions.
Could we get
No.
someone that graduated from college in the United States without going with someone that's from Spain?
Technically, they want them to be native speakers for them to have the level.
Because we're getting so many, people that's moved into our country that's got the background that came from.
And I know Sarah went to a job fair in South Bend where they have a high number of Hispanic students that graduate from there, hoping that maybe we could tag someone from their education department. And I don't believe anything panned out from that.
Not yet, but a lot of times it's networking, right? Finding people who know people who can, I've talked to people in the Dominican, I've talked to people in Ecuador that want to come, but they don't have a teaching degree, so they can't get the J1 visa that comes. We've got an interview tomorrow with a teacher who's from Puerto Rico that doesn't need a visa. And that would be ideal, right, to have somebody who doesn't need a visa, because then we save on cost. We had a teacher from Fort Wayne for many years, Alex Caron, who was a great teacher. He decided to take a job at Fort Wayne because they paid $10,000 more, and he didn't have to have to drive an hour each way, and he had a baby. So we are competing, right? So we have to sweeten the deal somehow, right? And then that's the challenge of a rural community, and at a difficult time. But I think we have support in this room to help us get that over the line. Alex loved the program. He would not be here today if it wasn't come down to money. But it is a lot to ask a teacher to come from Fort Wayne, make less money, and drive an hour each way.
And if you get somebody who transitions into teaching, they might be fluent in Spanish, but then you have classroom management problems, if they have not taught, and that's an issue as well. You might get them for less money, but then that brings on the other problems, and it could be the Newsoo review in the classroom. That's something to consider. I have a question. How many students are currently enrolled?
K through 7, we had about 201, I believe.
In this program?
Yeah.
Okay. That was one thing.
What percentage is that of our full student enrollment?
It's about 23%.
I have a question I wrote it down as Mackenzie from Manchester. I didn't catch your last name. You said attract Manchester College student or Manchester University students.
Yeah.
Does Manchester University have a Spanish language major?
They, right now their major is fluctuating. They have students that are Spanish majors. They're trying to figure out if they keep the major. They for sure have the minor and a certificate, Spanish for Educators program. And they have students who've been majoring it in Spanish, but this year they're wondering, is there enough interest other places? So I think, yeah, there are the student majors. There's two, for example, that I know of that were just studying abroad. And they'll be coming up on their practicums, and they are specifically interested in DLI programs. There's also been heritage learners, which I think was maybe kind of what somebody was alluding to, but people who grow up in a Spanish-speaking culture, right? They're in the United States, but they're from a Spanish-speaking family, and so they have an extremely high level, of proficiency. And we have seen those people be majors as well at Manchester, and so they have a lot of the cultural background as well as the, visas are an issue as well.
Sarah, have we reached out to Manchester University? Have we gone that route?
We have met with them in the past, and definitely looked at opportunities. There's a balance, right, of finding quality teachers and also paying the teachers appropriately, right? We do like to look at foreign teachers because they're, especially through the Spanish embassy, they're embedded with many years of experience. They're very highly effective teachers, right? Typically right in the door. That's not always the case, right? There's your outliers, but primarily the teachers, and we like to diversify the teachers because we want them to learn different dialects. There's 17 words in Spanish for popcorn. So kids can learn all of these different words, and they still in Spanish, but understand which person is from Argentina and Spain, and which one's coming from Guatemala. There's a value there bringing in different dialects and different backgrounds and cultures as well.
Any other questions from the board? Do we know why that year we lost 53 students? Do we know why we lost 50? I think they were in the DLI program. Correct. Why did we lose them? Did we have? Wasn't all
That
of
was
the
from the
DLI?
entire school corporation.
Okay.
That's not.
Do we know if they've lost the DLI that year?
No.
Okay.
I have a number, Jane, I can share with the board. I have it.
I also travel in Nicaragua a lot, and my daughter has gone to school there, and I have a lot of teacher friends there just over the years going there, and I know that multiple teachers there have expressed interest to come here, and they want the opportunity. I know nothing about the visas and different things, but I know that, as you said, Spanish is different, spoken differently in different countries, and we try to get a wide range, but I do know that I have contacts there that have expressed interest in coming here.
Thank you.
And I wanted to add, we did have a survey, there were many parents that couldn't make it here, and one day with the survey, we're at over 165 signatures for parents that petitioned that they would like to keep the program that they couldn't.
Anyone else? Yeah, this is not a decision we're gonna make tonight. We're not voting on anything tonight. I think we have a lot more discussion that we need to, as a board, that we need to have. But we do appreciate all the comments. It's been very helpful. Gives us lots to think about. Whatever, yes?
Is there a timeline now?
Do we have a timeline for when this needs to be done?
They're working on it.
No, I mean, there's, you guys have presented questions that I think I need to get some data and share with the board before we move forward.
Yeah.
And that's not stuff that easily can be done in a day.
Yeah, we're not, I mean, I don't think we're looking at this as we need to decide by the next board meeting or anything. It's gonna play itself out for us. And we're gonna obviously, I think, explore some of the things that were brought up here and discuss that. So
real quick,
Are you going to decide by the school year?
I don't know, they need to save the money. That's what the hope is to say, it's, right, that's the hope, is to have it done by the beginning of the school year. By before the next school year? Begin in August, when we start school.
I don't know that we can answer that. I mean, I think we need to look at all the information, the questions that you presented, and use that to make our decision.
I don't have any questions, but just a couple of comments. I feel like I'm in a very unique situation, if anyone knows who I am. Like, I have 3 different roles I feel like I'm sitting in. Parent with 2 kids in the program, my wife's a general ed teacher, and a school board member. That's kind of difficult, I feel like. And so I've been just sitting here. I don't think you can see my face at all, but it's pretty
Yeah, we
painful.
apologize for the darkness.
Yeah. It's on purpose from my face
Yes, so you
only.
can't
Yeah.
find us in the parking lot.
No, I live just down the street, closest to this school. I don't care. It's not been one of those things that's just been like, oh, let's find the quickest chopping block and I mean, the closest thing to the chop block and just throw it on there, okay? It's not one of those things. I mean, shoot, my kid's been in it since the closest to the beginning, except for the first class. So I've been in it from the near beginning. It's one of the reasons that my kids we're in city schools is because of Forest K and this program. So it's not like we're here just trying to throw something on the chopping block, because let's find the biggest fork out there and throw this out there. One thing to clear up, the state of Indiana has been really good about making it difficult on funds, if you haven't noticed. And so we can't pay to play. Parents can't do that anymore. They won't let you do it. They've taken that, there were no textbook fees, no computer fees.
We have a foundation.
Well, there might
And
be
that's- I
there might
wrote
be
down
sneaky ways
that I need
about
to
it.
Look into that.
There might be sneaky
So-
ways that we can go legally about it.
But the thing is
But-
it's not about 1 year.
Yeah.
It's how much do we need for this to continue?
Yeah,
And
so-
so it can't be just, oh, let's raise this and we have it.
Yeah.
It's how much do we need in an endowment
Yeah.
that's going to pay us every year a certain amount? And it's gonna have to be a big number, because in a few years, I think the state's gonna say minimum teacher salary is 60,000.
Which that's kind of another point that I have to bring up, and I don't like bringing it up, is because I hate, that's my worst part of this whole thing, is I don't ever bring this up, is we have to think of all the other teachers too, guys. That's the other thing I have to think too, like school district wise, is we have to think of everyone. And that's what this board has to think of too, is the entirety of the school district. And as much as I love this program, and I'm not saying that's swaying me one way or another, I'm just saying I'm hoping you understand, like, that's what we also have to consider too. That's not a question, that's just, that's where we are, okay? And so, like, I'm probably one of the most emotional guys on the board. I'm the only guy on the board. And I'm the most emotional, okay? And I don't care, because I freaking love this school, okay? So.
The other thing that I want to think about, I love seeing all you parents here, because I know how much you love your kids and you want only the best for them. And the program is wonderful, but I also think of the early college program that we have that is so wonderful, that all the kids, many of the kids walk into. It's such a cost-saving thing for the parents and so on, but to keep the qualified teachers to teach those classes, that's the other thing at the other end of this. And I taught here for 42 years, and I taught in the golden age of teaching, where, I got a raise, a yearly raise, 2% or 3% or something like that. It wasn't nirvana, but I didn't go into teaching for money. Nobody does. But you've got to make a living wage and so on. And I want the most for your kids too. I can't express that enough. And so we'll take in, I appreciated all the comments and so on tonight.
Yeah, something, I'm sorry, Beth Hilby, principal at OJ, and I agree with Jason on what he was just saying. And one of the things I would like to encourage is, as we look at opportunities and things we can do, not only for this program, I hear a lot of people saying, we're willing to pay for it. Our clientele population unfortunately, there's about 60% of our students who do not have that ability. And how can we make it attainable to all? I think that's been a struggle over the years.
always
Definitely
been a
not something
struggle.
we can't look at and address, but to make it enrollment, I mean, if that program was attainable to all students, that would, and it's available to all students, I don't mean to say that, but I need to keep that going. There's lots of families who can't pay out of pocket and, to do that, so that's another layer, but something to consider too is how it could be inclusive.
Does the board have anything else to say? Comments, questions?
Figure out how many millions you need in an endowment. Let us go find it.
I think that's all the parents in the community really just want is the opportunity to try, at least give us the opportunity, even if it's a deadline at the beginning of the school year, at least then we have, something. I just feel like we need the opportunity to at least make an effort.
I'd say, like Connie said, there's several other amazing programs that we want to sustain too. So let this be an example of doing it for others. For briefing, for early college, everything. That's what this extra.
Thank you. We all appreciate your passion, and we feel just as passionately about the schools as you do. So going forward, we have a lot to think about. We need to move on.
We need to move the table with this then, right?
And this is definitely not, we
Yes,
don't have to
yes,
formally
okay.
do it.
All right, cool.
Again, we aren't going to be making a decision today, probably not next week. So we have a lot to discuss, and I'm sure we will be reaching out to some of you, or you can reach out to Dr. Sidley. If you would like to stay for the rest of the board meeting, you're welcome to, or we're not going to hurt you if you get up and leave. Thank you again.
Always welcome to come, all the time.
All right, item B on the agenda, board to approve adding a 4-year-old preschool classroom for the 25-26 school year. So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So last year, we had lower numbers in our 3-year-old classrooms. We also needed more support in the area of special education. So earlier this year, we moved Kristen Hoppus to special ed and went down to 3 4-year-old classes. Those 3 classes were filled, and now I think we had 11 students on the wait list. So by adding this class, adding that 4-year-old class back, we will be able to pull those students in off the wait list. And each class will still have room to allow for more students if we need it. We are going to put this position into our title grant. We are school-wide there, so we can use title money to pay for that.
Okay. All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Item C, board to approve hiring 2 paraprofessionals at LH Carpenter for the 2025 through 2026 school year. So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So one of the paraprofessionals will be assigned to the 4-year-old class that we just added, and then we are going to add another to the kindergarten section. This will help free up Mrs. Bear, who works with special ed students, because she had some other duties that it'll make it where she does not have to cover those duties. Okay. And again, this is, we're going to put these into title.
Okay.
All those in favor of approving the hires, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Item D, board to approve Abby Payton 40 hours during the summer to complete library inventory at OJ. So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Ms. Payton inventories the library each year. This is something that we always include in our budget. It's for 40 hours for her to get this completed.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Item E, board to approve an out-of-state professional development for Whitney Myers and Natasha Whitney to attend the Uncharted Learning National Summit in Chicago, Illinois on July 8th through 10th.
So moved.
Second. Discussion.
This conference is part of the Incubator EDU yearly renewal cost. That is the program that we use for our entrepreneurship classes. There's no fee for the training. It's included in that renewal cost, but we do have to pay for travel, hotel, and meal costs. And we do have money appropriated in our ed fund for staff PD that we can cover this.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Item F, board to approve the following fund transfers for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. These funds are special grant funds awarded to cover expenses in the fund they are being moved to. Fund 6400 CCDF to Fund 0101 Education Fund in the amount of $278,039.04. And Fund 6460 Medicaid to Fund 0300 Operations in the amount of $80,000. So moved. Discussion.
So when we receive our CCDF reimbursements and our Medicaid funds, we are required to receive them into the 6400 funds for reporting purposes. And then once they've been put into those funds, we're allowed to transfer them. So we always wait until the end of the fiscal period. That way those funds accumulate, and then before we close the book for the 6-month period, we can transfer them. So the CCDF pre-K, that's for pre-K vouchers, that goes into our education fund to help offset the cost of our preschool expenses. And then the Medicaid fund, that is actually money that we receive for reimbursements that we receive for qualifying purposes. And these funds are unrestricted. We can choose to do with them what we want. So we historically have put those into operations.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Item G, board to approve the following fund transfer from the Ed Fund to Fund 3140 Early Literacy Grant FY23 to bring the over-expended fund to a zero balance. Fund 0101 Education Fund to 3140 Early Literacy Grant FY23 in the amount of $114.24. So moved. Discussion.
So when we paid this grant out, we knew that we would go over a little bit. We did that because we wanted to make sure that we expended the entire amount of the grant. Otherwise, you have to return money to the IDOE. So we knew that we would have to move a little bit of money into that early literacy fund to zero it out. So it was $114.24.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the fund transfer, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Item H, board to approve hiring Catherine Gall as a school nurse at OJ Neighbors at a salary of $30,900 beginning August 1st, 2025.
Second.
Discussion.
So Mrs. Gold does come to us with previous school nursing experience. She was a school nurse down around the Muncie area before they moved to this area. She is an RN. She has also served as a sub-nurse for us for the last several years, so she's somewhat familiar with our district and OJ. So we are excited to welcome Mrs. Gall to Wabash City Schools.
Is that Greg's wife, the doctor?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wabash kid.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Items from superintendent.
This is our last week of summer school, and I specifically want to wish our students that are retesting for iRead good luck. As I always told my students when I was a building principal, just do your best because that's all that really matters. And as we move through June, we will begin getting information out later in the month about online registration for next year. That will take place July 13th through July 20th.
Okay, thank you. Items from COO.
I got nothing.
Okay. Items from administrators. Do we have any here still? Okay. Other items from visitors? Items from board members? Let's see. Joan?
Just keep in thoughts of the cross-country team out west. They've made it out there. They're running.
I just want to thank everybody for showing up. I know we've kind of moved past that, but I do like to see other perspectives. And I just appreciate you showing up. I wish we had this type of turnout at every meeting. So I encourage you to come to every meeting.
Jason?
Yeah, I always appreciate other perspectives. Makes me think more, which I could always use. Also, didn't Kugler go to the state and do some fast running and stuff like that? So 7th place, wasn't it?
You got 6th in the 200 and 9th in the 100.
Yeah, that's insane. I was
200.
Yeah, it was 7th in the 200. Yeah, like he ran super duper fast. So
But
that's all I know.
had the 200 not been late and it started to rain going
Yeah.
into it, he had the 3rd fastest.
Yeah, I saw, yeah, that's crazy.
And what about
Like
the relay team?
10 seconds for the 100 and like, he can run as fast as like a 440, it feels like. That's crazy.
When you're the youngest of 4, you learn to run fast.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Anyways, it's congrats to him and Coach Evans for doing a great job. And yeah, hopefully safety out there for the cross country team for the boys. And I know that the girls team's going out at the Hockey Hills in August, I think. So they're yet to go. But yeah, that's all I have for today.
It was great having so many people here, so many concerned parents. And this is such a quandary, you know, it just is. So I appreciated all the input though.
And I just wanted to say thank you again for everybody that came, those that have already left, but you've given us a lot to think about, like I've said, and it is a quandary, so.
In comparison, I don't want this many people at a city.
What'd he say?
Not that
Just
many.
in comparison, doesn't want that in the next city.
And with that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Yeah. Phone number 2.